My name is Augusta Bennett, I am 32 years old, and yesterday should have been the proudest day of my life. After years of saving every penny and countless sleepless nights, I finally opened my dream restaurant, Southern Comfort. I had sent personalized invitations to every family member 3 weeks ago. Yet as the grand opening hours passed, the tables I had reserved especially for them remained empty. When I finally closed up alone, my phone buzzed. A text from Dad. "We need to discuss the restaurant," he wrote. My response, "Well, that changed everything. Before I continue, let me know where you are watching from and subscribe if you want to hear how I finally stood up for myself." Growing up, I was always the one with flour on my face and recipe books scattered around my bedroom. My passion for cooking began when I was 7 years old, standing on a wooden stool in my Grandma Martha's kitchen, learning how to make her famous peach cobbler. The way her eyes lit up when I got it right for the first time ignited something inside me that never faded. I come from a family of 5. My father, Jack, is a successful businessman who built his empire from scratch. My mother, Diana, worked as a high school counselor before becoming a full-time homemaker. My older brother, Logan, followed in Dad's footsteps and went into finance. My older sister, Amy, pursued marketing and public relations. Then there was me, Augusta, the baby of the family, always trying to find my place. Being the youngest wasn't easy, especially with an older sister who cast such a long shadow. Amy was the golden child, excelling at everything she touched, straight A's, homecoming queen, a full scholarship to an Ivy League school. I was constantly compared to her, and the comparison was never favorable. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" became the soundtrack of my childhood. My relationship with my parents was complicated. They held traditional expectations for their children, centered around conventional success. Dad especially valued stability, prestige, and financial security. Mom was more understanding, but she ultimately aligned with Dad's vision for our futures. Throughout high school, I worked part-time at Rosie's Diner, a local spot known for comfort food. I started as a dishwasher and eventually worked my way up to line cook. The kitchen became my sanctuary, the place where I truly felt alive. While my classmates applied to prestigious universities, I researched culinary schools. When I announced my decision to pursue culinary arts instead of a traditional 4-year degree, my father was furious. "Cooking is a hobby, not a career," he declared at our dining room table, his face turning red with anger. "No daughter of mine is going to waste her life flipping burgers." Dad's resistance wasn't just about prestige. I later learned that before building his business empire, he had opened a small restaurant in his 20s that failed spectacularly within a year. That experience left him with a deep distrust of the food industry, seeing it as unstable and risky. But instead of sharing this wisdom with me, he tried to dictate my path. Mom stood somewhere in the middle, attempting to mediate our heated discussions. "Augusta, honey, we just want what's best for you," she would say, her eyes pleading. But when push came to shove, she always sided with Dad. "Your father knows about business. Listen to him." Despite their disapproval, I enrolled in the New England Culinary Institute. Without my parents' financial support, I pieced together scholarships and worked multiple jobs. Those years were exhausting but exhilarating. For the first time, I was surrounded by people who shared my passion. After graduation, I spent 10 years working in various restaurants, learning every aspect of the business. I started as a pastry assistant, then moved to line cook, sous chef, and eventually executive chef at a respected farm-to-table restaurant in town. Each position taught me something valuable, but I always knew I wanted my own place. The financial struggle was real. Without family support, I saved every penny. I lived in a tiny apartment, drove an old car that broke down constantly, and rarely took vacations. When friends from culinary school started opening their own places with family backing, I tried not to feel bitter. During those years, I was fortunate to work under Chef Seth Morales, who became my mentor and biggest supporter. Seth saw something in me that my family never did. "You have a unique voice, Augusta," he told me after tasting my modern take on traditional Southern dishes. "One day you're going to tell your story through your own restaurant, and people will listen." Everything changed 3 years ago when Grandma Martha passed away. We had always been close, bonded by our love of cooking and her unwavering belief in me. She was the one person in the family who truly supported my culinary dreams without reservation. 2 weeks after her funeral, I was called to the family lawyer's office. To everyone's surprise, Grandma had left me her life savings, a substantial sum she had carefully accumulated over decades. Her will specified that the money was to help Augusta pursue her dream of opening her own restaurant. The inheritance caused immediate tension in the family. Amy was particularly upset, feeling she deserved an equal share despite her already successful career. "Why does Augusta get special treatment?" she complained loudly at a family dinner. "She's not even doing anything important with her life." Dad was equally displeased, suggesting I invest the money in something more secure or let him manage it for me. But for once, I stood my ground. Grandma's final gift wasn't just money, it was permission to believe in myself. I made a silent promise at her grave. I would create something she would be proud of, a place that honored her legacy and my passion. With Grandma Martha's blessing in the form of her inheritance, I was finally ready to transform my lifelong dream into reality. Finding the perfect location for Southern comfort became my obsession. Over 6 months, I visited more than 20 potential spaces across the city. Some were too small, others too expensive, and many were in areas with little foot traffic. I began to wonder if I would ever find the right place. Then, one rainy Tuesday, I stumbled upon an old building on Main Street. It had previously housed a bookstore that had closed down after 30 years. The space needed significant renovations, but the bones were good, and the location was ideal, just 2 blocks from the downtown theater district. Best of all, the rent was within my budget because the owner was eager to find a tenant. Getting the permits wasn't easy. The city council had concerns about parking and whether another restaurant would succeed in an area that already had several established eateries. I spent countless hours at city hall meetings presenting my business plan and arguing my case. I even organized a tasting for council members to showcase what Southern comfort would bring to the community. During this time, I also reached out to successful restaurant owners in the area. Most were surprisingly generous with their advice. Tony, from the Italian place around the corner, warned me about the seasonal fluctuations in business. Maria, from the popular breakfast spot, shared her vendor contacts. Their insights proved invaluable as I refined my plan. Once I secured the lease and permits, the real work began. I hired my college friend Rachel as the architect for the renovation. She understood my vision immediately, a space that honored traditional Southern hospitality while feeling contemporary and inviting. We designed an open kitchen so diners could see the cooking process, a cozy bar area with reclaimed wood, and a main dining room that felt both elegant and comfortable. The renovation process threw one challenge after another my way. We discovered structural issues that needed immediate attention. The electrical system was outdated and had to be completely rewired. The plumbing was a nightmare of rusted pipes and improper connections. Each new problem meant more time and money. My initial budget quickly proved inadequate. I had to take out an additional loan from the bank, using Grandma's house, which I had inherited along with the money, as collateral. Every night I fell asleep staring at spreadsheets, recalculating costs, and adjusting timelines. The stress was immense, but giving up was never an option. While the construction crew worked on the space, I focused on developing a menu that would stand out. I wanted to honor the Southern cooking traditions my grandmother had taught me while adding my own creative touches. For months, my apartment kitchen became a test lab as I experimented with different recipes and techniques. I spent weeks perfecting my grandmother's fried chicken recipe, trying various brining methods and flour mixtures until I found the perfect combination. I modernized her collard greens by adding unexpected ingredients like smoked tea and citrus. Each dish had to tell a story and evoke emotion. After developing nearly 30 potential menu items, I hosted a series of tasting dinners for friends and former colleagues. These intimate gatherings allowed me to gauge reactions and collect feedback. My shrimp and grits with roasted tomato gravy was an instant hit, as was the bourbon pecan pie with salted caramel ice cream. A few dishes didn't make the cut, including a seafood gumbo that never quite reached the depth of flavor I wanted. The feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Even my harshest critic, a food blogger friend who never sugarcoated her opinions, declared that my food had soul and sophistication in equal measure. This validation fueled me through the exhausting final months of preparation. Finding the right staff proved challenging. I needed people who not only had the necessary skills but also shared my passion and understood my vision. The search for a head chef to work alongside me was particularly difficult. I interviewed 12 candidates before meeting Marcus, a young chef with impressive technical skills but limited experience. What he lacked in years, he made up for in creativity and enthusiasm. I took a chance on him, and it proved to be one of my best decisions. For the front-of-house manager position, Seth recommended Sophia, who had previously managed his restaurant before moving to our city. Her wealth of experience and calm demeanor immediately impressed me. After our first meeting, I knew she was the perfect person to help create the hospitable atmosphere I envisioned. The final 2 weeks before opening were dedicated to training the staff. I hired 8 servers, all young and eager, but with varying levels of experience. Sophia and I developed a comprehensive training program covering everything from the history behind each dish to the proper way to open a wine bottle. We conducted role-playing scenarios, practiced handling difficult customers, and held multiple mock service runs. Meanwhile, I worked with a local design firm to create the restaurant's branding. The logo featured a stylized peach blossom honoring Grandma Martha's famous peach cobbler, with the word Southern Comfort in an elegant but approachable font. We applied this branding to everything from menus and business cards to the sign above the door. Social media accounts were created, and a professional website was designed. I hired a photographer to take pictures of the space and the food for promotional materials. Press releases were sent to local food blogs, newspapers, and magazines, resulting in a small but encouraging buzz about the upcoming opening. As opening day approached, I meticulously planned every detail. The grand opening would feature a special tasting menu showcasing our signature dishes, complimentary champagne for guests, and live music from a local jazz trio. Everything had to be perfect. 3 weeks before the big day, I designed special invitations for my family members. Each card was personalized with a handwritten note expressing how much their presence would mean to me. For Dad's invitation, I wrote about how I had applied his business advice to my planning process. On Mom's, I mentioned how her support through the years had given me strength. I acknowledged Logan's financial guidance and thanked Amy for inspiring me to pursue excellence. Despite our complicated history, I genuinely wanted to reconcile with my family on this important occasion. I believed that seeing my passion come to life might finally help them understand and accept my choices. I called Mom a week before the opening to confirm they were coming. "Of course we'll be there, sweetie," she assured me. "We're all very proud of what you're doing." Those words meant everything to me. I reserved the best table in the house for them, positioned where they could see both the open kitchen and the entire dining room. I planned a special family tasting menu with wine pairings. I even ordered a custom cake with "Thank you for believing in me" written in elegant script. Everything was ready. My dream was about to become reality, and my family would be there to witness it. Or so I thought. The morning of the grand opening, my alarm went off at 4 o'clock, though I had barely slept anyway. My stomach was a knot of excitement and nerves as I showered and dressed in my new chef whites, emblazoned with the Southern Comfort logo and my name. I arrived at the restaurant before dawn to find Marcus already there, prepping vegetables with meticulous precision. "Couldn't sleep either, huh?" I asked, tying my apron. "Too excited, chef," he replied with a grin that revealed both enthusiasm and nerves. Throughout the morning, I checked and rechecked every detail. The tables were perfectly set with crisp white linens and polished silverware. The wine was properly chilled. The special menu cards had no typos. I personally tasted every sauce and component, making minor adjustments when needed. Around 10 o'clock, a delivery arrived from Seth, my mentor. A stunning arrangement of sunflowers with a card reading, "To new beginnings and well-deserved success. Your journey is just starting, Augusta. Proud of you." His belief in me brought tears to my eyes, which I quickly wiped away before anyone noticed. Former colleagues sent similar tokens of support. My first chef sent a bottle of champagne. Culinary school friends who couldn't attend sent encouraging texts. Even Tony from the Italian restaurant down the street stopped by with a small olive tree. "For good luck and prosperity," he said, embracing me warmly. By 11:30, Sophia had gathered the entire staff for a final pep talk. I looked at their eager faces, feeling a surge of responsibility and pride. "Today isn't just about serving food," I told them. "It's about creating experiences and memories. Each person who walks through that door should feel like they've come home." As noon approached, I found myself frequently glancing at the entrance, expecting to see my family arrive early. The special table reserved for them remained empty as the first customers began to arrive. The initial hours were a whirlwind of activity. Word had spread about our opening, and there was a steady stream of curious diners from the moment we opened the doors. Food critics from the local paper and a regional blog were spotted at different tables. A couple celebrating their anniversary ordered champagne. A group of business people chose our restaurant for their lunch meeting. Reactions to the food were overwhelmingly positive. Plates returned empty and compliments were sent to the kitchen. The shrimp and grits proved especially popular, as did Grandma's peach cobbler with my signature bourbon caramel sauce. Between expediting orders and checking on tables, I kept watching the door and checking my phone. At 1:30, I received a text from Mom. "We might be a little late, honey. Don't worry about us. Focus on your customers. So proud of you." The message reassured me, and I threw myself back into the controlled chaos of the kitchen with renewed energy. By 3 o'clock, we had served nearly 70 people, far exceeding my expectations for a soft opening. The atmosphere in the dining room was lively and warm, exactly what I had envisioned. Yet as hour 4 of service approached, my family's table remained conspicuously empty. My calls to Mom went straight to voicemail. Dad wasn't picking up either. Logan's phone rang without answer. Amy's text messages showed as delivered but unread. Marcus noticed my distraction as I checked my phone for the 10th time in an hour. "Everything okay, chef?" he asked, concerned. "Fine," I lied, forcing a smile. "Just checking the time." But minutes later, Marcus inadvertently delivered the blow that confirmed my worst fears. "Hey, isn't that your sister?" he asked casually, showing me his phone screen as we worked side by side, plating in order. "My roommate follows her on Instagram. Looks like some kind of party. I glanced at his phone and felt my heart drop. There on the screen was a photo posted just 30 minutes earlier. My entire family, dressed in their finest, raising glasses in a toast. The caption read, "Celebrating Amy's big promotion to marketing director #ProudFamily #moving up." The photo had been taken at Lystro, an upscale restaurant across town known for its expensive menu and exclusive clientele. I recognized the distinctive chandeliers and burgundy walls in the background. I handed the phone back to Marcus, my hand trembling slightly. "Yes, that's her," I managed to say before turning away to hide the emotion threatening to overwhelm me. In that moment, everything became painfully clear. My family hadn't been delayed. They weren't coming at all. They had chosen Amy's celebration over my restaurant opening. Despite knowing how important this day was to me, what made it worse was the realization that this wasn't a coincidence. Amy had known about my opening date for weeks. We had spoken about it during a brief phone call where she had seemed supportive, even excited for me. Yet somehow her promotion celebration had been scheduled for the exact same day. The betrayal cut deep. This wasn't just missing a birthday or forgetting to call. This was my life's work, my dream realized, and my family had collectively decided it wasn't worth their presence. For the next few hours, I operated on autopilot. I smiled at guests, expedited orders, and maintained a professional demeanor while inside I was crumbling. The irony wasn't lost on me that I was serving comfort food while feeling anything but comforted. Sophia caught my eye across the dining room, her intuition picking up that something was wrong. During a brief lull, she pulled me aside in the office. "What happened?" she asked simply. I showed her the Instagram post. No explanation was needed. "Augusta, I'm so sorry," she said, squeezing my shoulder. "But look around you. This place is packed. Everyone loves the food. You've created something special here, with or without them." Her words helped, but couldn't completely erase the hollow feeling in my chest. Still, she was right. I had customers to serve, a staff depending on me, and a dream to fulfill. I splashed cold water on my face, took 3 deep breaths, and returned to the kitchen with renewed determination. By 8:30, the dinner rush had subsided. We had served over 150 people throughout the day, a remarkable number for an opening. Customers lingered over dessert and coffee, the ambient lighting creating a cozy glow throughout the space. As the last guests paid their bills and departed with promises to return soon, the staff began the closing routine. Servers counted tips and shared stories of positive customer interactions. The dishwashers tackled the mountain of plates and pots. Marcus and the line cooks cleaned their stations with practiced efficiency. I thanked each staff member individually as they completed their tasks and headed home, exhausted but satisfied with our successful first day. Sophia was the last to leave. "Get some rest," she advised, giving me a supportive hug. "Tomorrow will be just as busy, and you need your strength." After everyone had gone, I walked slowly through the empty restaurant. I straightened chairs, adjusted table settings for tomorrow, and found myself standing before the table that had been reserved for my family. The special menus I had created just for them remained untouched, the champagne unpopped. In the quiet of the empty space, surrounded by evidence of a successful opening but feeling utterly alone, I finally allowed myself a moment of grief. Not just for today's absence, but for years of seeking approval that never came. I was locking the front door when my phone buzzed in my pocket. Assuming it was a congratulatory message from a friend, I was shocked to see my father's name on the screen. The message was brief and cold: "We need to discuss the restaurant. No apology for missing the opening. No explanation for their absence. No congratulations on my achievement. Just a businesslike demand for a discussion about my restaurant." As if it were a problematic homework assignment rather than my life's dream. I stared at those 7 words, feeling a strange mix of anger, hurt, and confusion. What could he possibly want to discuss? He hadn't even seen the place. He hadn't tasted the food or met my staff. He had no basis for any discussion about my restaurant. As I walked to my car in the dark, empty parking lot, memories of my complicated relationship with my father flooded back. Jack Bennett had always been a man of strong opinions and even stronger control. Having built a successful construction supply company from nothing, he believed his way was the only way to achieve success. From childhood, he had mapped out our futures with precision. Logan would join the family business. Amy would pursue a respectable corporate career. And I was supposed to get a business degree, marry well, and eventually manage the administrative side of Bennett Construction. My interest in cooking was tolerated as a hobby but dismissed as a serious pursuit. Restaurants fail, he would remind me whenever I mentioned culinary school. 80% in the first year. That's a fact, Augusta. What he never shared until years later was his own restaurant failure. In his 20s, before meeting Mom, he had opened a sports bar that went bankrupt within 10 months. The experience had left him with significant debt and a deep skepticism about the entire industry. Instead of using that experience to guide me, he simply tried to block my path. When I persisted, he withdrew both financial and emotional support. "You're making a mistake," he said the day I left for culinary school. "Don't come crying to me when it falls apart." As I sat in my car, too emotionally drained to start the engine, my phone rang. Mom's name flashed on the screen. With a deep breath, I answered, "Augusta, sweetie." Her voice came through, tinged with the guilt she always carried when caught between her husband and children. "How was the opening?" "It was great," I replied flatly. "Where were you all?" There was a pause before she answered. "Honey, I'm so sorry. Amy got this last-minute promotion and they organized a celebration. We couldn't really say no. You understand, right?" I didn't understand. Not at all. But before I could say so, she continued, "Your father wants to talk to you about the restaurant. He has some ideas, some plans that could really help you succeed." The word "plan" sent a chill through me. What kind of plans? "Business plans, dear. You know your father has a good head for these things. He just wants what's best for you." "Does this have anything to do with why none of you showed up today?" I asked directly. Another pause. "Not exactly, but Augusta, try to see it from our perspective. We worry about you. The restaurant business is so risky, and we don't want to see you get hurt." As she spoke, I could hear voices in the background, laughter and clinking glasses. They were still at Amy's celebration. "Your father thinks he can help make the restaurant more viable," Mom continued. "Just hear him out, okay? Family dinner on Sunday, 6 o'clock. Too exhausted to argue, I agreed and ended the call. The drive home was a blur of streetlights and quiet tears. When I finally crawled into bed after midnight, sleep eluded me despite my physical exhaustion. I lay awake replaying moments from my life, seeing patterns I had previously ignored. The way Amy's achievements were celebrated lavishly while mine were acknowledged with reserved caution. The constant subtle, and not so subtle, messaging that my passion wasn't valuable or sustainable. The conditional nature of my family's support, always tied to how closely I adhered to their expectations. Particularly painful was the memory of Amy's college graduation dinner, held at an exclusive restaurant with a private room and custom menu, compared to my culinary school graduation, which was marked by a hurried lunch at a chain restaurant, with Dad checking his watch throughout and leaving early for a business call, around 3 o'clock in the morning. I found myself reading through the opening day reviews that customers had already posted online. "Incredible flavors, will definitely return," wrote one. "Best shrimp and grits in the city," declared another. "The chef has created something special here," a local food blogger had posted. These words from strangers provided more validation than I had ever received from my own family. The irony wasn't lost on me. As dawn broke, I called the one person who had always believed in me. Seth answered on the second ring despite the early hour. The prodigy calls. He greeted me warmly. "How was opening day?" I gave him the short version. "Great customer response. No family attendance. And now Dad's mysterious plans for my restaurant." Seth's response was immediate and firm. "Augusta, listen to me. This is your restaurant. Your vision, your execution. You've worked too hard and come too far to let anyone, even family, derail what you've built." "But what if he's right?" I whispered, voicing my deepest fear. "What if I can't make it work on my own?" "But you're not on your own," Seth countered. "You have a team. You've trained, you have suppliers who respect you, customers who are already returning. And you have me and everyone else who believes in your talent." We talked for nearly an hour as the sun rose, Seth sharing stories of his own family conflicts when he first opened his restaurant. "My father wanted me to sell insurance like him," he recalled. "He didn't speak to me for 2 years after I chose cooking instead. Now he brags to everyone about his chef's son." By the time we hung up, I felt more centered, though still uncertain about the upcoming family meeting. I spent the rest of the day reviewing contracts and financial projections, ensuring I had a complete understanding of every aspect of the business. If Dad wanted to discuss the restaurant, I would be prepared with facts and figures. I also reached out to my lawyer to confirm that all ownership documents were in order. The restaurant was solely in my name, funded by Grandma's inheritance and my own savings, with the bank loans secured against property I owned. Legally, my family had no claim or control over Southern Comfort. Armed with this knowledge, I felt more confident about facing whatever plans my father had in mind. This was my dream, my creation, and while I valued family, I wouldn't sacrifice everything I had worked for to appease them. Sunday approached with a sense of impending confrontation that left my stomach in knots. Whatever happened at that dinner would define my relationship with my family moving forward. I was prepared to listen, but also determined to stand my ground. Sunday evening arrived with ominous storm clouds gathering, mirroring my internal state as I drove to my parents' suburban home. The familiar 2-story colonial with its perfect landscaping had once represented security but now felt like entering enemy territory. I parked behind Logan's sleek BMW and Amy's new Audi, evidence of their traditional success. Taking a deep breath, I approached the front door. A bottle of wine in hand, though I doubted we would be celebrating anything tonight, Mom answered, pulling me into a tight hug that felt more apologetic than welcoming. Everyone's in the living room, she said, taking the wine with a grateful smile. Dinner's almost ready. The scene in the living room could have been from any normal family gathering. Dad stood by the fireplace, drink in hand, discussing something with Logan. Amy sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone. It was as if the grand opening snub had never happened. Augusta's here, Mom announced, and all eyes turned to me. Dad approached first, giving me a quick, formal hug. Good to see you, sweetheart. How's business? The casual question, as if he were inquiring about a hobby rather than my life's work that he had deliberately missed, ignited a spark of anger I quickly suppressed. Opening weekend was excellent, I replied evenly. We were fully booked both nights. Logan offered congratulations while Amy finally looked up from her phone with a tight smile. The place looks cute from the photos online. She said the word cute with a subtle diminishment. Throughout dinner, the conversation stayed on safe topics, the elephant in the room growing larger by the minute. Mom had prepared pot roast, my favorite childhood meal, clearly an attempt to soften whatever was coming. As we finished dessert, a homemade apple pie that couldn't compare to what we served at Southern Comfort, Dad finally cleared his throat. Let's move to my study to discuss business, he said, standing up. The study had always been Dad's domain, its mahogany furniture and leather chairs a setting for his important decisions. We arranged ourselves around the room, my parents and siblings forming an unconscious semicircle opposite me, as if in court. Dad settled behind his desk, assuming the position of authority he was accustomed to. Augusta? I've been looking into your restaurant venture, he began, as if conducting a performance review, and I've developed a strategy that I believe will ensure its success. He opened a leather portfolio and removed a printed document, sliding it across the desk toward me. The heading read, Southern Comfort Restaurant Strategic Rebranding and Management Plan. I've taken the liberty of outlining some necessary changes, he continued as I scanned the document with growing disbelief. First, the name needs to be more commercially appealing. Bennett's Southern Table would connect it to the family name and our business reputation in the community. My heart raced as I continued reading. Dad was proposing a complete overhaul of my concept, a simplified, more accessible menu replacing my carefully crafted dishes. A new management structure with Dad's business associate handling the finances. And, most shockingly, me stepping back from management entirely to focus solely on cooking. You're a chef, Augusta, not a businesswoman, he stated matter-of-factly. This arrangement plays to your strengths while protecting your investment. I'm willing to put some family money behind this restructuring to make it work. I looked up from the document to find everyone watching me, their expressions revealing their roles in this ambush. Mom looked anxious, clearly aware of how I might receive this proposal. Logan seemed uncomfortable but resigned, likely having argued against this approach but ultimately deferring to Dad as usual. Amy, however, was practically vibrating with enthusiasm. I've already mocked up some marketing materials, she chimed in, producing a folder of her own. The current branding is too niche. My team can reposition it to appeal to a broader demographic. So this was why none of them had come to the opening. They hadn't wanted to see my vision realized because they already had plans to remake it in their image. How long have you been planning this? I asked quietly. The momentary silence confirmed my suspicion before Dad answered. We've been concerned about this restaurant idea since you first mentioned using your grandmother's money for it. We just want to make sure it succeeds. By taking it over completely, I said, my voice calm despite my internal turmoil. Not taking over, Dad corrected. Guiding, supporting. You've always been emotional about your cooking, Augusta. Business requires objectivity. When exactly were you going to tell me about these plans? Before or after seeing the restaurant I actually built? Mom jumped in, trying to diffuse the tension. Honey, we thought it would be better to let you have your opening, get it out of your system, and then approach this practically. Get it out of my system? I repeated, the phrase landing like a slap. This isn't a phase or a tantrum. This is my career. My dream. Dreams don't pay bills, Dad countered. Reality does. And the reality is that most restaurants fail within a year. I'm trying to prevent that. The conversation rapidly deteriorated into a heated argument. Dad listed all the reasons why my approach was doomed to fail, citing statistics and anecdotes about restaurant closures. I defended my business plan, my concept, and my early success. But my words seemed to bounce off an impenetrable wall of certainty that I couldn't possibly succeed on my own terms. As the argument escalated, uncomfortable truths began emerging. Logan, after several drinks, revealed that Dad had predicted my failure from the moment I received Grandma's inheritance. He said Southern Comfort wouldn't last 6 months, Logan admitted, avoiding my gaze. That's why he already had this plan drafted. Amy, defensive. Yes, I knew it was your opening day when I scheduled it. So what? This promotion is a real achievement in a real career, not playing restaurant with grandma's money. Her words hung in the air, the naked jealousy and contempt finally exposed. For years, Amy had been the star, the favorite. My pursuing a different path had never threatened her, until grandma's inheritance gave me the means to succeed on my own terms. Mom began crying as the accusations flew back and forth. Decades of family dynamics unraveling in a single evening. Please, everyone, she pleaded. We're family. We should support each other. Support? I laughed bitterly. Is that what you call missing my opening to attend Amy's party? Is that what you call planning to take over my restaurant before even seeing it succeed or fail on its own? The truth was finally laid bare. My family had never believed in me, had never truly respected my choices or my passion. Their absence at my opening wasn't an oversight or a scheduling conflict, it was a deliberate statement about what they valued and who they valued. Dad, frustrated by my refusal to acquiesce, finally delivered his ultimatum. Augusta, you have 2 choices: accept our help on our terms, or continue alone without the family's support. But don't come to us when it all falls apart. In that moment, with my family arrayed against me, I thought about Grandma Martha. On her deathbed, she had made me promise something. Don't let them dim your light, Augusta, she had whispered, holding my hand with surprising strength. Cook with your heart. Live with your heart. The rest will follow. I understood now why she had left her money specifically to me, with clear instructions about its use. She had known exactly what would happen and had tried to protect my dream from the family's controlling influence. The realization was both painful and liberating. These people who shared my blood did not share my vision or respect my autonomy. Their love came with conditions I could no longer accept. I stood up slowly, gathering the scattered papers of Dad's proposed takeover plan. With deliberate care, I folded them neatly and placed them back in the portfolio. The room had gone silent, all eyes on me. Thank you for showing me so clearly where I stand, I said, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. I appreciate finally seeing the truth after all these years. Dad frowned, clearly expecting either angry resistance or tearful capitulation, not this calm clarity. Augusta, be reasonable. We're just trying to help you succeed. No, I replied simply. You're trying to control me, just as you always have. You want me to succeed only on your terms, in ways that make sense to you. That's not help. That's conditional love. I turned to face all of them. Southern Comfort had over 200 customers in its first weekend. Every review has been positive. We're already seeing repeat customers. The local food critic is coming next week. All of this happened without any of you there to witness it. The shock on their faces was evident. They had clearly expected a struggling operation that would welcome their intervention. I designed this restaurant, created the menu, hired and trained the staff, and handled every detail of the opening. I did all of this while working full-time as an executive chef to save extra money. I have a solid business plan, reasonable operating costs, and projections based on actual industry experience, not theoretical scenarios. I looked directly at Amy. Congratulations on your promotion. I truly mean that. When I questioned the timing of her promotion party, finally snapped, but I didn't schedule my restaurant opening to compete with your celebration. I would never do that to you, even though you deliberately did it to me. Her eyes widened, then dropped to her lap, the first sign of shame I'd seen from her in years. To Logan, I said, I appreciate that you've been caught in the middle, but your silence has been its own kind of betrayal. Mom was still crying softly. We love you, Augusta. We just want to be part of your life, your success. Then you should have come to my opening, I replied gently. You should have supported my vision instead of planning to replace it with your own. Love means respecting someone's choices even when you don't fully understand them. Finally, I addressed Dad, whose face had grown increasingly rigid. I won't be implementing any of these changes. Southern Comfort is my restaurant, created with Grandma Martha's blessing and support. The name stays, the menu stays, my management team stays, and most importantly, my vision stays. He started to interrupt, but I held up my hand. I'm not finished. If you want to have a relationship with me going forward, there will be new boundaries. You will respect my business decisions. You will not try to interfere with my restaurant. And you will acknowledge that my career choice is valid and worthy of respect. Dad's face flushed with anger. So that's your response after everything we've done for you? What exactly have you done for me in this venture, Dad? You didn't provide funding. You didn't offer support. You didn't even show up to see what I created. Instead, you sat here plotting how to take control of something that isn't yours. I gathered my purse and jacket, ready to leave. I'm not asking for your money or your business expertise. I'm only asking for your respect and support. the kind that doesn't come with strings attached. If you can't give that, then we have nothing more to discuss regarding my restaurant. You're making a mistake, Dad said, the same words he had used when I left for culinary school years ago, growing up. I was always the one with flour on my face and recipe books scattered around my bedroom. My passion for cooking began when I was 7 years old, standing on a wooden stool in my Grandma Martha's kitchen, learning how to make her famous peach cobbler. The way her eyes lit up when I got it right for the first time ignited something inside me that never went away. As I headed for the door, I turned back one last time. My restaurant will be open Tuesday through Sunday, 5 to 10. If any of you want to actually see what I've created before judging it, you're welcome to come, as customers, not consultants. I left without waiting for a response, the weight of years of seeking approval finally lifting from my shoulders. In my car, I sent one final text to the family group chat: when you're ready to respect my choices, Southern Comfort's doors are open to you. Until then, I'll be too busy succeeding to worry about your approval. Driving away from my childhood home, I felt a strange mixture of grief and liberation. I had lost something tonight, but perhaps it had never truly been mine to begin with: unconditional family support. Yet I had gained something far more valuable: the courage to stand firmly in my own truth. No, I replied with newfound confidence. For the first time, I'm standing firmly in my truth. The mistake would be letting anyone, even family, derail me from the path I know is right for me. Sophia arrived shortly after, immediately sensing a change in me. Something's different, she observed as we reviewed the reservations for the day. You seem, I don't know, lighter somehow. I am, I confirmed, sharing the highlights of the family confrontation. I finally stopped hoping for their approval and decided to approve of myself. She nodded approvingly. About time. Now, let's show them what they're missing by having the best restaurant in town. That day, I cooked with a freedom I had never experienced before. Each dish that left my kitchen represented my unique vision, untainted by compromise or the weight of others' expectations. The customers responded to this authenticity, many of them requesting to meet the chef to express their appreciation personally. By the end of the week, Southern Comfort had developed a small but devoted following. We received a glowing review from the local food critic, who praised our soulful yet sophisticated approach to Southern classics and described the atmosphere as genuinely welcoming. The staff seemed to sense the shift in my leadership as well. Without the shadow of family disapproval hanging over me, I became more confident in my decisions, more open to creative collaboration, and more present in every aspect of the restaurant. One evening, as I walked through the dining room greeting guests, I overheard a customer say to her companion, "You can taste the love in this food. That's what makes it special." In that moment, I knew Grandma Martha would be proud. I was cooking with my heart, just as she had taught me. The rest, as she promised, was following. 3 months after the grand opening, Southern Comfort had established itself as a notable presence in the local dining scene. Our reservation book was consistently full, especially on weekends. The local newspaper had named us Best New Restaurant in their annual dining awards, with specific mention of our modern interpretations of classic Southern dishes. The success allowed me to expand our staff, hiring 2 more line cooks and additional servers to handle the growing demand. We also launched a small catering operation for private events, which quickly became popular for business lunches and intimate celebrations. What surprised me most wasn't the business success, but the personal transformation I had undergone. The confident chef who now ran Southern Comfort was a far cry from the woman who had spent years seeking her family's approval. I moved through the restaurant with authority and purpose, making decisions without second-guessing myself or wondering what my father would think. This newfound confidence extended beyond the kitchen. I had begun speaking at local business events about women entrepreneurs in the restaurant industry. I mentored young cooks through a community college program. I even started writing a cookbook featuring the stories behind our most popular dishes. Perhaps most significant was the family I had created within the restaurant's walls. Sophia had become not just my manager, but a trusted friend and confidant. Marcus had grown from an uncertain young chef to a creative force in the kitchen, his talents flourishing under supportive guidance. The entire staff operated as a cohesive unit, supporting each other through busy services and celebrating victories together. Seth visited frequently, proudly telling other diners he had mentored me back when she was just starting out. His support had never wavered, and I made sure he always had the best table in the house and special dishes not available on the regular menu. My relationship with my biological family evolved slowly over those 3 months. Mom was the first to reach out, visiting the restaurant alone one Tuesday evening 2 weeks after our confrontation. She sat at the bar, ordered the special, and waited nervously until I emerged from the kitchen. "This is wonderful, Augusta," she said, genuinely impressed after tasting my roasted duck with cherry bourbon sauce. "I had no idea you could create something like this." That first visit opened a door to healing. Mom began coming regularly, sometimes bringing friends, always proud to introduce me as the owner and chef. Through her, I learned that my stand against Dad's control had created ripples in their marriage. For perhaps the first time, she was asserting herself more. Questioning decisions she would have previously accepted without comment. Logan and his wife became regular customers as well, often bringing business associates to impress them with his connection to the hot new restaurant in town. Our relationship remained somewhat distant but respectful, both of us acknowledging the years of complicated family dynamics that had positioned us as competitors rather than allies. Amy maintained her distance the longest, her pride wounded by my refusal to follow the family pattern of deferring to Dad's authority. But eventually, curiosity won out. She arrived unannounced one evening, sitting alone at a corner table. I sent her our tasting menu with wine pairings, a peace offering of sorts. When I approached her table toward the end of her meal, the awkwardness between us was palpable. "The food is really good," she admitted, sounding almost surprised. "Everyone at work is talking about this place." "Thank you," I replied simply. "That means a lot." We didn't discuss the past that night, but the ice had been broken. In subsequent visits, we slowly rebuilt a relationship based on mutual respect rather than competition. It would never be the close sisterly bond depicted in movies, but it was honest in a way our previous relationship had never been. Dad remained the holdout, as I had expected. His pride and need for control prevented him from acknowledging that my path could be successful without his intervention. But I heard through Mom that he followed the restaurant's progress closely, reading every review and asking subtle questions about the business. The breakthrough with Dad came on a busy Friday evening. I was expediting in the kitchen when Sophia appeared at my side, her expression a mixture of surprise and concern. "Your father is here," she said quietly. "Alone? Table 7. I peered through the past to confirm, and there he was, sitting stiffly at a small table, examining the menu with intense concentration. He hadn't made a reservation or called ahead, clearly wanting to experience the restaurant authentically, as any other customer would. "Treat him like any other guest," I instructed the staff. "I'll speak with him after service." Throughout the evening, I watched from the kitchen as Dad experienced Southern comfort. He ordered methodically, starting with my signature pimento cheese biscuits, then the shrimp and grits, and finally the peach cobbler that honored Grandma Martha's recipe while adding my own creative touches. I observed his reactions through the kitchen window, his surprise at the first bite, the way he closed his eyes to savor the flavors, the slight nod of appreciation. He was experiencing my vision, my passion, in the most direct way possible, through the food itself. After the last customers had departed and the staff was cleaning up, I approached his table. He had lingered, nursing a bourbon, waiting for this moment. "What did you think?" I asked simply. Dad considered his words carefully. "It's not what I expected," he admitted. "It's better, more sophisticated, more substantial." He struggled to find the right words. Coming from him, this was high praise indeed. We sat in silence for a moment before he spoke again. "I was wrong about the restaurant," he said. The admission clearly difficult for him. And perhaps about other things as well. It wasn't a full apology, but from a man who rarely acknowledged mistakes, it was significant. That night marked the beginning of a slow reconciliation, not based on my surrender to his vision, but on his growing respect for mine. The healing process with my family wasn't instantaneous or complete. There were still tense moments, misunderstandings, and old patterns that emerged in times of stress. But something fundamental had shifted. I no longer sought their approval to validate my choices. I had found my own voice and the courage to use it. Through therapy sessions I began shortly after the confrontation, I worked through the deep-seated wounds from years of conditional love and unmet expectations. I learned to separate my worth from my family's perception of me, to set healthy boundaries, and to love myself even when others couldn't see my value. The most profound lesson from this journey was understanding that sometimes you have to disappoint people you love in order to be true to yourself. That standing alone is better than standing in a crowd that requires you to diminish your light. That true family isn't always determined by blood, but by who shows up for you without conditions or expectations. Grandma Martha had known this all along. Her inheritance wasn't just financial, it was permission to be authentically myself in a family that had always valued conformity over individuality. In honoring her gift, I had found not just professional success, but personal liberation. As I close this chapter of my story, I wonder how many of you have faced similar crossroads in your own lives. Have you ever had to choose between pleasing others and being true to yourself? Did you find the courage to stand your ground, or are you still seeking permission to follow your own path? Share your experiences in the comments below, and remember to subscribe if this story resonated with you. Sometimes the most painful rejections lead to our greatest moments of authentic living. Thank you for listening to my journey, and may you find the courage to honor your own dreams, even when those closest to you don't understand them.